Elle Wilson, welcome to Seeing Other People.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I am so excited because not only have you built such an amazing thing for singles everywhere and for everybody listening, I cannot wait for them to hear, but you also have your own love story and you also have a thriving dating coaching business. And so you are so impressive. I love hearing how people got into the dating space and the helping people find love space, which you do with Met Through Friends. And there's so much I want to talk to you about. So let's get into it.
I'm so excited.
Before we dive headfirst in, can you give us a little elevator pitch of what Met Through Friends is?
Yeah, so I say Met Through Friends, they're dating events where everyone has to bring a friend, is sort of the gist of it. So many people were telling me, I just want to meet someone through friends. I want to get off the ops. I just want to meet people through friends. But I noticed it wasn't happening as much as before. So I kind of took the thing that everyone said they wanted to do and turned that into a business. So the rule is you can bring someone of the orientation you want to date. If you're a woman who wants to date men, you have to bring a man who wants to date women, vice versa. We do queer events as well. But really, you have to bring someone that you can vouch for, even if you don't want to date them yourself.
Which is amazing because it's its own vetting process.
Yeah, because it used to be like when I still ran it out of my apartment, my own friends, just people I would invite. I'm like, I know you are great. I need you to bring someone great. But it was a really interesting test to go, kind of all the people I know have now met each other. And they either hit it off or they didn't. But like, now what? And it was sort of this question of going, what happens if I just open this up to everyone else where I say, you can come, but you just can't come alone. And it was a really interesting vetting mechanism. Like, I don't care about like, where did you go to school? How much money do you make? How like objectively attractive are you? But like, are you the kind of person who has great people in your life that you can vouch for and will vouch for you? And it's been like a really, really reliable way of getting just like great people in the door. So it's been awesome.
That's incredible because that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can post and hashtag things that will get it out to people and just have like a random person come to the door, but that's not what you want. You want someone who is there intentionally. You want somebody who, you know, maybe they've done the work to like get themselves to this point where they're ready to meet somebody and they have a friend who's saying like, this is a person that I'm not embarrassed to bring.
Right,
like, this is someone who I would set somebody else up with.
Totally. And you get all kinds of different relationships between people when they come through the door, which I think is really, really fun. You'll get everything from like, I didn't know someone, but my friend's neighbor like is amazing. So my friend set me up with their neighbor to come and we just met. Or like literally pairs of siblings. Like someone it'll be like a brother and sister pair. And I'm like, I love all of that because I think, you know, I love if someone's like, I have my like platonic best friend from college and we're like not a romantic match, but I love them. But I think a lot of people will say like, I actually don't have anyone that immediately comes to mind. And to me, that's a really interesting reflection moment of going like, if you're like wanting to date, but there aren't a whole lot of like people in that demographic that are in your life, how do you expand your circle to like meet new friends, make new connections and say like, I'm single, I'm looking, I'm open, like I'm ready, like I just need to make new friends first and like expand my social circle, which has been really cool.
Absolutely. From the second you said the siblings thing, first of all, I offer up my brothers to like anyone who's like, do you have a guy to set me up with? I'm like, have you met my brothers?
That's amazing.
Hasn't worked out yet, but one day. I saw a video. I watched it like 5 times because I was just so shocking to me. But it was like a man on the street video of a guy, I think in like Australia, and he went up to a guy and a girl and said like, excuse me, like, are you to a couple? And they said no. And he goes, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. If you get it right, you get $10,000. If you get it wrong, you have to kiss. And they said, okay. And they got the question wrong. And he said, all right, now you guys have to kiss. And they kissed. And he was like, are you dating now? And the guy goes, no, we're siblings. And the video just ended there. And I'm like, wait, what?
Just no explanation.
No explanation.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't look away. Like I kept having to rewatch it.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
They're just really close siblings. Really
Super
comfortable,
weird.
I guess.
Super, super weird. But you're not doing any events in Australia right now, so I don't think they will end up.
No, not those two. You know, we like close, but not too close.
Not too
siblings.
close, for sure. Okay, so you mentioned it was, you know, in your own social circle, people were saying, like, I want to meet someone, like, off the apps. Take me back to the first one that you did in your apartment.
So the first one, honestly, like was a bit of a joke. So I used to host like happy hours every week in my apartment when I was like new to my neighborhood, and I was like, I just want people to like know I live here, like come over, like I love having people over. We'll get some bottles of wine and some cheese and just like hang out. So we did that once a week. And one of those really common topics of conversation was like, I hate dating. It sucks. Like, there's nobody good left. Like, am I gonna die alone? You know, just all those like really like frustrating conversations, which was just like the realest thing in the world back in 2022. I mean, it always has been.
Still
Dating's
is,
never
for
been
sure.
easy. But there was this sense of like, I'm hearing like no one good is left, but like you all are great.
Right.
Like this isn't matching. Like you all are amazing. It's not like there's nobody good left. You're quote unquote left. Like you're single and you're looking and you're amazing, and I believe that there are other people out there.
Also, there could be people currently in relationships who then get out of relationships.
Exactly.
Like, there always are more people. It's just
Yes.
a matter of where they are and how
Right.
to find them.
Right. And there was this perception, like, I don't know where anyone is. I'm like, they're here. You're literally right here. Like,
Yep.
it was like, what are we doing? Like, everybody come over to my apartment. Let's make it, like, whatever we're going to do. This sense of, like, why are these amazing people who I know are single and looking missing each other? And it was a sense of, like, oh my God, what are we doing? Just come over.
Just
We're just going to have a party.
We're doing it.
But then, you know, then you start getting into the like, well, I'd love to, but like, I don't know anyone. And I'm like, that's literally not true. Like, you actually do know people. I know your coworkers. I know your brother. I know your sister. I know your cousins. You don't have to want to date them, but someone else might really like to. So what if you sort of, you know, just bring them over. So we had this part, you know, I was saying that as a joke. And none of my friends were like, would you please do that? Like, I wasn't single at the time. I was like living with my partner of several years at that time already. And I was like, fine, I love playing wing woman. Like,
doing the Lord's work.
You can ask a lot of my good friends, like you know, on a night out, you know, pre-COVID or whatever, I was like, I will like throw myself like, you know, in front of the bus for you. Like, I just think this is so fun. Like, I enjoy it. So they're like, if you would do this, I would come. So I said, all right, like, I'll do this. And, you know, I think the first one maybe got like probably about 30 people to the first one.
Wow.
Bunch of friends. And there was a pair that got together that very first night. And the funny thing was, it was a pair that showed up platonically and left no longer platonic.
Shut up.
Yeah.
They came together.
They came together like as plus ones, but I think it was like that opportunity for them to go like, well, wait a minute, like, interesting. So I've seen it all at this point. People who literally are like, I'm here to get my brother a girlfriend,
Right.
to like, this is someone I maybe feel a little bit of chemistry with, and this is my opportunity to like let them know I'm interested, to like, we've been friends for 15 years, to we even dated, but we're
Yeah.
not a match, but we still really like and respect each other.
That's so true. I get asked this question every time without fail. Every single time I post like an Ask Me Anything, it's like, I have a friend that I have feelings for. Like, how do I tell them without rooting the friendship? And you really do have to take it slowly and kind of feel it out. And by saying to somebody like, hey, like, there's this thing, like, we should both go. And then it's like, you're in this setting that's a very different setting than the settings you're used to. And sure, you'll meet other people, but maybe you can actually bond over this shared experience and see
Right.
what happens.
Right, which I thought was so amazing. And like, you know, even though like it would be amazing if everybody met someone they dated at
course.
that, you know, first event. But even the people who I think didn't meet someone, there was this sense of like, I thought this would be really scary, and it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. Or like, I had some really lovely conversations with people. Like, yeah, I didn't meet someone I wanted to date, but like, there are like kind people looking for what I'm looking for, and I had a nice conversation and a nice time.
Yeah, it does, you know, help with that mindset of there's nobody left. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
there are good people still. Those people weren't my person, but it almost renews your hope.
Exactly. It's like collecting evidence that like, right, I'm not alone. Like,
Yeah.
it's a matter of just like time and like, yes, luck and chance and all those things, but the
Yeah.
sense of like, it's not like you're the last single person left and
Totally.
nobody wants what you want. They actually do.
Yeah, I hear that a lot when somebody will, you know, go on a few dates with someone and they're really great and they want the connection to be there, and it's just not there, but they're still glad it happened because
Yeah.
it showed them like, okay, there are good people.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah,
It's not doomed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did it start as like formal speed dating, or was it just like everybody come over and just let's all hang?
So it started as like a sort of, I kind of thought about it like a facilitated cocktail party. I think like watching enough of my friends and even, you know, myself and different, like, it's very hard to just like be in a room and go like, hey, I'm going to approach this person. And like, that's very hard for anyone of any gender. Like, you know, it's just really intense. So what I did was immediately like, people had to arrive in pairs and I separated them as soon as they got there. I was like, you actually can't stay together. And I randomly assigned them to talk with different people in the room. And then I'd shuffle the room every 15 minutes. The idea being like, we're not approaching, and you also don't get to pick based on like superficial social characteristics. Like we're assuming everyone here is like a solid human being who's worth talking to. And you're just going to talk to them and that's it. And I give them like conversation starter prompts and then like shuffle the room. And if they were like, I'm not done with this conversation, I'm like, I don't care. Like if you want to talk to them later, go find them later. And we had fun games and things. We play like lock and key, or we had a Cupid suggestion box where you could suggest a match and, you know, all those kinds of things. So we played games, we had fun things, but the idea being like, we're not here to like, you know, stand in the corner and like think about how we're going to talk to people. We're also not here to like go talk to the hottest person and then like bounce if it didn't work out. Like you're going to make new connections with other single people looking for what you're looking for.
You also never know, like maybe you meet somebody and in their mind and in your mind you're not a match, but they may be like, wow, my cousin, and you have to meet. He couldn't come tonight. Like she had a thing for work, but you guys need to meet. Like, can I connect you?
Exactly. And I love that because that kind of thing definitely happens all the time where it's like, oh, you didn't meet your match there, but you made a great friend who now is your wing person on your next night out. I was just hearing back from a couple that came to my first official party, like the first ticketed one. And like the two of them met and the guy was really into the girl, but she wasn't into him. But then they sort of joined into the same friend group after that point because I think like, they've been invited by different people in the same friend group that all attended together. And they like stayed friends for months. And I just heard back from them like 7-8 months later. And they were like, hey, so guess what? We're dating now. Like,
oh my God.
So that kind of thing, like fostering those repeat connections and those friendships and those things that like maybe you didn't see it the very first time you met, but like you got to know a person and it grew on you. And I think like we kind of lost a lot of those connections, particularly like through the pandemic. And just a lot of people were like, I'm no longer in college or in my like first job with a ton of people my exact same age. Like, where do I get those repeat interactions? So fostering those, like you just never know
for sure
where it's going to come from and other dating.
Especially in a city like New York, it can be really hard. Like if you're not from around here, if you move here for work and you don't know anyone, I feel like this is the most intimidating place in the world to try and make genuine friends.
Right.
And sure, you could like download Bumble BFF, but then it's like dating, but just in a different way. You still have to like text and you still have to see if you click with someone and then go get coffee or a drink with them. It's like, this is actually such a great way to make friends and to make friends who you're not just meeting them, you're also meeting another one of their friends.
Yeah.
And all these other people. Right. And like, that's why I love speed dating. And I think it's people have gotten more comfortable with the idea of it. I think a few years ago it was very taboo and it's becoming way more normal, but I think it's so great. Just think about it. Think about how much time you have to invest into getting one date with somebody from a dating app. You have to deal with the swiping and then you have to match and then you have to start a conversation and then have the conversation go pretty much exactly as you both want it to go. Then you have to plan a date. Then you have to get ready for the date, go to the date, all to maybe not even like each other.
Right.
And speed dating, you're meeting 5, 10, 15, 20, however many people and then deciding, okay, I've already met this person. Do I want to see them again?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's so efficient. I'm such a convert to speed dating because I think I felt very similarly to probably a lot of your listeners where I'm like, speed dating, like, isn't that what our like uncle used to do? Like, what is this? But it is such a like efficient, but also like low stakes, kind of low pressure way. It's like you're going to talk to everybody else in the room. The assumption isn't that you're going to like every other person in the room. You're just going to talk to every other person in the room and make some new connections, which I think it's been also really fun as an organizer to see what happens sort of around those. There are a lot of people who like, they get dragged to someone's plus one and they're like, I really don't want to be here. And then they come up after and they go, I get it now.
That was
like,
fun.
That was
like,
really
I had
fun.
a good time.
I think another thing that's been really cool about speed dating as an organizer, looking at it from sort of the back end, is you'll also see like, so I remember the very first speed dating event I ever threw. There definitely were like some dates that came out of it. But the thing I remember is a lot of the guys reached out to me afterwards being like, hey, how do I connect with the other guys here? Like they were really great. Like, and I'm just looking for new guy friends, you know, which I thought was really, really lovely. And as much as I love like when people like get what they came there for, which is like, I got a date with someone I'm really excited about. I also really love when I see like a group of 6 get together and be like, hey, do you all want to go dancing now? Or like, should we go get some cocktails? Or like, do you want to come join our pickleball league next weekend? This sense of like, sort of just openness to serendipity and just making new connections in all of their forms. Because I think dating in this like really high pressure, like this first date has to go amazingly. Otherwise I've failed. I've done something wrong. There's something wrong with that person. Like I completely understand where that feeling comes from. And I think we've all been there when we're really like frustrated and stuck. But that sense of like, I don't know where my next connection is going to come from. I'm open to making connections of all different kinds and seeing where they lead. I don't know, but at the very least, I've made a friend. I've connected with a new human, and like that'll lead me somewhere is like a really beautiful thing to watch.
Absolutely. It's very much like community building and
Yeah.
looking for friends. And through friends, you can develop different connections.
Yes.
I also feel like speed dating in general is just a great way to practice dating and practice having conversations, practice meeting people. You can practice trying out talking about different things and seeing what feels good, what doesn't feel good. Oh, like this person reacted weirdly when I mentioned this. Okay, let's see if I mention it again like 2 more times. Let me do the research and see, is it a weird thing to mention? Or did just one person react to it in a way that I didn't love, and that reflects more on them than me?
Right. It's like building that dating like muscle and resilience, in the sense of like, yeah, everyone's different, but also like, am I putting my best foot forward? Like, am I showing enough curiosity? Am I asking good questions that prompt good answers? Like, am I just doing the things that set me up for success in a kind of low pressure way? And like, I love all different kinds of formats. I love an activity. I love something that gets people up and moving. But there's a reason it's such an enduring format that refuses to go away. It just like works for quite a lot of people really well.
It's not that our ancestors did it because it was the only way.
Right.
They did it because it worked. Same with matchmakers. Like, people used them for generations because they worked.
Right. And not for everyone every single time, but enough of a like, there's a reason this is effective. There's a reason people keep coming back to it. And I've experimented with like every format under the sun, and this is one that just works.
Yeah.
So
for someone who's listening to this and is still not sold on the idea of speed dating, on the idea of going to a singles event,
right,
what would you say?
I'd wonder sort of what expectations they're putting on it and why it feels so high. Because like at the end of the day, a speed dating event is what, max 2 or 3 hours of your time. Get dressed up, meet some people. It doesn't go well. That's a learning, you know? And I know that there are occasionally some horror stories. Like, I met someone that was totally insane or whatever. But I think for the most part, I'd say like, you have very little to lose, and in fact like just quite a lot of people to meet and things to learn about yourself. Approach it not as a like, I'm here to meet the love of my life, and if they're not there, it was a waste of my evening. As instead more of a like, let me see, like if I'm here, there are probably people like me who are here who are looking for what I'm looking for. Let me see if there's even just one person I connect to and have a good conversation with. What can I learn about this experience, instead of like, what does it mean that I have to be here or I've wasted my time?
Absolutely. And think of it this way, it's not a waste of time.
No.
Like we said, like you're practicing meeting people. You might get out of it something different than what you thought you were going into it looking for. But also, you only have to get dressed and go somewhere once.
That's it.
To meet 15 people.
And like, if you really do hate it, then like, great, don't go back. But you're not signing up for like a year's worth
right.
of
It's not a
programming.
subscription. Like,
it's
you're
one
going
evening.
one time, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of going one time, for those listening, I mean, obviously go more than one time. But if you've never done speed dating, if you've never gone to a singles event, or if you have, you want to go again, we have something special for you.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Okay, March 20th.
March 20th, Thursday evening, 7 to 10 p.m. in Flatiron. It's going to be +1 speed dating. So you have to bring a friend of the orientation you're interested in dating. This one's for men seeking women, women seeking men. So if you identify as a woman who's interested in dating men, you just got to find a male friend or someone in your life that you can vouch for in some capacity. Bring them along for someone else. Everyone's going to get a chance to talk to everyone else, and then we'll hang out and mingle in a really beautiful venue, and just a great way to meet other people looking for what you're looking for. Again, get those reps in, try something new. It should be a really fun time, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I cannot wait, and I can't wait to see it all in action and just like be there to witness the connections being made and conversations being had. And for anyone who's like, oh, but I really want to come, but I don't have someone to bring, like, yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's like ask your friends, ask your siblings. Like you said, like it could be someone else's person.
Right.
It's not that crazy to like ask around.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your coworker's sibling. Maybe
Totally.
it's your next door neighbor who you've gotten coffee with once. Maybe it's them or their coworker.
Yeah.
Just mention it to somebody. Oh, I heard about this thing. You know, this podcast I listened to is having this event, or I saw this on Instagram. It's called Met Through Friends. I have to bring a friend if I want to go. Do you have somebody in mind?
Yeah. And I love when that happens, because I think it can be, instead of saying like, there's no one that comes to mind, I guess that's it, instead say, maybe I really like do need to make some more new friends that are also single and looking for what I'm looking for, and like expand my social circle in that way. So I think it's a really great way to sort of like take stock of like, who you're spending time with and whether they're looking for what you're looking for. And then say like, okay, if I don't have someone now, let me make a friend.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Let me, you know, if I'm looking to date guys, like, can I make some great new guy friends who probably know people? Like,
absolutely.
In that sense of like, you know, you find great people by finding people you like spending time with, and the people you like spending time with probably know people too. So it's a great way to like, you know, look around and explore. And I know people who like they got set up as each other's platonic plus one and then like became friends, like, which is also really, really fun. So ask around. These people are likely closer than you think.
For sure.
Lean on your friends and your family to be like, I know this great person, and I think that's never a loss. You will have connected with someone.
Yeah, and even if you're like, no, Alana L, I really am like, I'm the only single person in my friend group. I'm not close with my coworkers. Like, I don't know anyone. Okay, ask your friend group. Guess what? If you're the only single person in your friend group, that means your friends have partners. And that's a whole other world. They have coworkers and cousins and siblings and college friends and high school friends and church friends and you know, workout friends. Like, ask around. There's absolutely no shame in asking your friends for help with this. They want you to be happy and they want you to find someone.
They probably really do want to help and are stoked about this.
Yeah.
Like, so many of my like coupled or partnered, not single friends are like stoked to help their single friends out. You know, maybe they're like, I don't have someone that you would date.
Right.
But I know another single person who's wonderful. I'd be happy to put you two in touch. So, and like, don't be too hard on yourself if it doesn't happen right away. Like, maybe you're looking to get something for a particular date and like, you don't find it in time. Like, that's okay. But like, at least getting the ball rolling of like, I want to connect with more single people, I think can be a really refreshing thing to do.
For sure. March 20th. And if you can't make it on March 20th, there are always Met Through Friends events.
Yes.
So
all
there
the time.
will be more. I might not be there, but will.
And I'd love to see you there.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that when you did this first one in your apartment, you were in a relationship.
Yes.
Okay. How did you and your fiance, congratulations,
Thank
meet?
you. We actually met on Hinge, but 10 days before the New York lockdowns for COVID. So it was the last date I ever went on, not even the last one I had scheduled. The next one got canceled and never rescheduled. So it was just the last date I ever went on. But I think one of the things that really sticks out to me about that time period was like, that was sort of in the pre-COVID days, it was the last era where like in-person dating and online dating really coexisted fully. I was still meeting people like in person through work or through friends, you know, going out to bars, like whatever it was. So I happened to meet him on Hinge. But yeah, we went on one date and then the world shut down and we kind of had to go like, is this it? Are we going to give this a shot? And we did, and here we are.
Wow. Do you remember what it was on your profile or his profile that brought you to match?
That's such a good question. I do remember that period of time. I remember looking at like online dating as sort of like, I'm looking for reasons to say yes rather than reasons to say no. I had just moved to the city 6 months prior. And rather than being like really, really rigid about like, I'm looking for exactly this thing and everyone else gets a left swipe, it was sort of like, this person is cute. They seem interesting. They seem funny enough. We're going to go back and forth a few times and I'm just going to go on the date. So I do remember like, yes, I thought he was cute. And like, yes, there were all these things that definitely did stick out to me, but I don't want to paint it as like, oh my God, like I saw this profile and I knew it was my soulmate. Like we went on a date on a Wednesday night.
Oh, that's more realistic.
Yeah.
That's more realistic. Was there anything notable from your first date? Like, did you leave the first date? Obviously, you didn't know the world was about to shut down and go haywire, but did you leave the first date thinking like, wow, like that was an awesome date. I really like this person. Or did you leave like, we'll see?
I remember it was a good date, but the thing that almost sticks out to me more is like I'd had a totally crappy day at work, like just a really, really bad day. Just everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. And I remember almost like canceling it, being like, I am in such a bad mood. Like I'm not even, that had nothing to do with him in the slightest, but that's sort of like, I feel like crap, but I knew I'd feel better if I got myself out of the house and spent time around a person. So, you know, fixed my makeup, put my big girl pants on, was like, just go have fun with a new person, take your mind off of your work day. And I do remember that like, he really did feel so comfortable and so familiar right away. My head was all over the place because of aforementioned just like awful day. But I do remember being like, I feel really, really comfortable right away, which was really great and really wonderful. But again, it's like, you know, I don't want to paint unrealistic expectations for anyone. Again, it wasn't like the profile. I was like, oh my God, this is the most perfect profile I've ever seen in my life. Or like, I knew right away that I was going to marry this man. But like, I had a good time. I'm glad I went and I'm glad I stayed in touch just to like see where things went.
Absolutely. I really like what you said about about you were looking for reasons to say yes instead of looking for reasons to say no, because I think it's so easy. Like the easiest thing is to find something wrong with somebody.
Yeah.
Or to say, nope, they're not tall enough. Nope, they didn't go to the level of college that I want them to go to.
Right.
Nope, like they work in consulting. I'm not dating consultants anymore because I did that in the past.
Right.
Like it's so easy on dating apps to put someone in a box
Yeah.
and throw that box to the left.
Right.
And it can be harder to be positive.
Yeah.
And to look at things from a mindset of, oh, this is nice. Oh, I could, talk to somebody about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really wonderful that that's the approach that you took. And I feel like, people feel so many different ways about dating apps, but I think everyone would be better off if they could go in with that mindset.
Yeah, and it definitely took, I think, a fair amount of practice on my end. I don't want to imply that it was like easy, but it was this sort of, what do I actually have to lose? Like, I like to say, like for myself anyways, that like as long as I'm safe, a bad date's a good story. Like, and you go for a drink, you go for an hour, you do whatever it is, and then you can leave.
Right.
And then you learn something, but trying to figure out like, learning how to have a good conversation with anyone, to enjoy an hour with anyone, even if they're not my person. I'm like, wow, but I still learned about your fascinating job, or like this place you grew up that I'd never heard about, or like, everyone has an interesting story. Everyone has something interesting to share. And I think it's also really beautiful when people surprise you. You're like, I didn't even know I'd be into that, but I totally am. And I think one of the things that also is really funny is like on paper, my fiance and I don't have like much in common. Like we don't have any of the same hobbies. Like we're not from remotely close places in the world. Like there's so many things that are different, but we have just really been sort of like, we just love spending time together. And that's not something you'll see on a profile. So it's another one of those like finding reasons to say yes instead of finding reasons to say no. If I'd been like, I only want to go out on dates with people who, went to a similar school or had a similar job or have the same hobbies as me or something, like I would have missed it. So, instead of looking at it like a date is a waste of time unless it leads to my person, it's like, it's a fun way to have a conversation for an hour.
It's also an amazing life skill. To learn how to hold conversations with people who are hard to hold conversations with. Like that is going to stick with you forever. Like that is essential. It's something that we are not taught. And there's no other way to really learn it.
Right.
So highly recommend dating even just for that reason in itself. But yeah, I know so many people who they are obsessed with running. They only want to date someone else who's a runner, or, they love sports. They love watching sports. They're really into sports, and they would never date somebody who doesn't want to watch sports and keep up with that with them. But that has nothing to do with whether someone would be a good partner or not.
Yeah. And it's like, to me, it's so much more important that someone respects what I do, lets me do what I want to do, will accompany me when it's important to me, but they don't have to love what I love the same way I love it. They just have to like be supportive of me doing it, you know? And I think that's so, for me anyways, that's so much more important. And I get that people can have different preferences that are important to them, but I encourage people to be like, hobbies are kind of not a great indicator of someone's character, values, how they are as a partner. Like they can be a great place to start, but if you're like nixing people because they don't love all the same things that you love the same way you love them, I'd like encourage them to maybe think a little bit more expansively.
Also, hobbies change.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with your point of like not looking for reasons to say no and looking for reasons to say yes, I noticed this about myself recently where I've changed so much in the last 4 years since I was single. Like I have changed so much, even in the last year. And over Thanksgiving, I like laughed to myself because I used to swipe left, and I like would make a joke out of it. It was like a bit. Like I would never go out with somebody who runs a 5K with their family on Thanksgiving morning. Fast forward, I'm begging my husband to run a 5K with me on Thanksgiving morning.
We all change. We all grow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Like I would never have wanted to run a mile.
That's so funny. And I think that's like excellent proof that like, those things are superficial. Like they change. They're like flexible, but some of the like, what are someone's values? Like what are their character? Like how do they treat you? How do they treat other people? Like what are their like big goals in life? Not the like short-term ones, but like what kind of life do I want to live? Or the things that are like. And
how do you feel with them? I mean, you mentioned you felt so comfortable.
Yeah.
That's how I felt on my first date too, where, on other dates where I was so excited about the person, I didn't feel comfortable. I felt anxious.
Right. It was just like nervous, freaking out, maybe not getting the kind of like comfort. That
validation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Feeling on edge, like you have to impress.
Right.
Totally.
Right. And sometimes those are like the biggest like letdowns. They just don't go anywhere. And it's like, it wasn't worth the hype.
Right,
So it's just
exactly.
go
and we
in, have a good
overhyped
time.
it because we
Exactly.
were anxious.
Exactly.
So another question I get a lot, and I want to hear your answer now that you are engaged. What was the turning point for you where you felt like this is somebody I want to spend my life with?
Ooh, good question. Because I think like I wasn't someone that had like a singular epiphany moment, like the sort of like, and then I knew, like you knew and you knew. Like there was an element of like, I do remember and kind of immediately feeling like family, which I thought was really, really cool. But it was just sort of like we spent more time with each other and we learned more about each other and we learned more about what we wanted and it just made sense, you know? Yeah, and I think there was something really interesting about dating early in the pandemic, when everything else was shut down and all we had was each other's company. And it was that sort of like, you know, we took a little like quarantine break when no one was sure, like, are we going to get sick if we get within 6 feet of each other? Like, what's going to happen? But then after that, it was really just kind of spending time with each other and getting to understand, like, how does this person handle stress? Like, can they make their own fun? Like, are they adaptable? Like, do I enjoy their company when I'm not doing something flashy or fancy or super engaging? Like, can we sit on the couch and enjoy each other's company and then just like see where that goes? And we were in the funky position where it's like when everything was locked down, you really only got to see people outside of your immediate vicinity when it was very important and you made a strategic decision. It's like I met his family before I met his friends, like because it was just like we didn't go to dinner for like 9 months because we couldn't because all the restaurants were closed. So it was like this really kind of wacky out of order thing. But I think the thing I appreciated about that is like getting to see much deeper into a person much earlier. And also that sort of moment of like, I have to slow down and see this one through. I don't get to be like, well, I have another date on Wednesday. Let me see if that one's better. Or, you know, not that I think anyone really does that super consciously. They're like, I'm going to see if it's better. But like, there's that sense of like hustling. And I think there was that moment for me of really focusing on like, what do I value? Where do I want to go? And like, is this person on the same page? And realizing like, yeah, we're like excited about like the same big things and like this is really special and I've gotten to see this about a person.
It is cool that you were able to experience this period of uncertainty together and you were both really able to, you know, like roll with the punches and take things as it came together.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you know, if you had to do it again now, not during COVID, with the takeaways that you got from, you know, this relationship starting in that slow time, what advice would you give to somebody about, you know, the early stages of dating and getting to know somebody?
Yeah. I would say to like have very clear like intentions, like actually know what it is you want, because I think the sort of like I'm gonna date and I'm gonna know what it is when I see it like is a little tricky to know how to decide. So like getting clear on what's like important to you, your values, like what your goals are, even if they're like, you know, I really just want to date, or I want to learn about myself, or I really, really want to have fun. I'm actually not interested in finding someone to like marry and have kids with and buy a house. Like whatever that is for you, like know what it is and then like use that as an intention, but then like don't take it too seriously. Like go out there, meet people, have fun. Like making connections with other human beings is never wasted time. And you be open to being surprised. Like as much as, you know, having a clear intention is important, like I think you can say like, I value these things, but they might show up in a way I wasn't expecting. Like how cool is that? So it's like clear values, but like flexible, like day-to-day actions. Go on the date, say yes to the thing, say yes to the invitation, go to the party, kiss the person, like just have a good time. And if you're having a good time, you will connect with the right people. And if you connect with the right people, then that's it. Like
I also think there's so much to be said about when you're having a good time, it attracts good people.
Yeah.
There's such a difference. There really is such a difference between somebody who is going with the flow, enjoying life, open to opportunity versus somebody who's feeling so down, so discouraged, so burnt out, and just going through the motions because they feel like it's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like if it's ever feeling like something you're supposed to do, something has gone wrong. Like it's one thing to say, I'm going to like hold myself accountable. I'm going to say yes instead of no. Like I'm going to push myself a little bit. But if it's like, I have to go on a date because it's what I'm supposed to do, but I hate being here. I don't want to be here.
It's going to suck.
Then it will.
Yeah.
Like maybe occasionally you'll get surprised. But for the most part, it's like people can feel that and they can tell when they're being like tested or like someone doesn't want to be in their presence or whatever. And it's kind of like, at the very least, can you leave going like, I had a good cocktail and an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
if you have that approach, you're going to be disappointed so less frequently.
Yeah.
Like I know for me, when I was in my early 20s or even my mid 20s, I wanted a boyfriend so badly. That's it. That's really what it was. I wanted a boyfriend so badly. And thinking back to like my behavior on these dates and in these situationships, of course I didn't get one.
Right.
Because I was radiating, I want a boyfriend energy. And that really is true. Like, people pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
No matter how good you think you are at hiding it.
Yeah. And I remember dating getting weirdly so much easier for me when I stopped going like, I hope this one is my person.
Yep.
And going like, I'm excited to learn about this person. And I don't think it's like, don't care about the outcome at all. That's like definitely not what I mean, because it'd be like, it'll happen when you least expect it. I hate that advice.
Yeah, throw that out the window.
Throw it out the window. But
Not
this
you,
sense
Berkeley.
of like, I'm doing the things that will, not you. But like, I'm doing the things that are getting me closer to people that are right for me by spending time doing things and with people who I enjoy.
Yeah.
And just trusting that it will sort of arrive eventually, or at the very least you'll have fun along the way and your time wasn't wasted.
This
Hi.
is the cutest
You
thing I've
liking
ever
it?
seen in my
You
life.
liking it?
Barkley's just like legs and arms open for belly rubs right now. It's so cute. Yes.
But yeah, so when I was a sophomore in college, I basically got mono and had to move home, like, you know, I was going to take a semester off and get better, but then as I was like halfway through the school year, I was like, well, I don't want to go back in the middle of the year, and also kind of like want to try out some jobs, and I want to make friends, and I kind of want to be out of college for a while. Like, I got some part-time jobs and like stitched a bunch of things together, wanted to get a bunch of life experiences. But one of the things that I really remember about that time period is like, oh my God, I don't know how to actually date. Like, I went straight from high school to college on a campus. Like, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, I want to learn. So I really took that time, and I was not someone who was like, oh, I dated a ton in high school or, you know, whatever. Like, I just sort of was like,
who does?
Who does? I know some people do, but I was like, who are you? How does that work? Like,
where are you from?
Mystical, like, okay, magical creature. But I really wanted to like learn how to date. And I took that time period to be like, I'm not looking for the love of my life, like right away. Like, I want to learn, like, how does one go on a date? Like, what does one talk about on a date? How does one get dressed? Like, where do you go? Like, how do you talk to people on dating apps? How do you talk to people in bars? And it was so much more of this experiment of like, I don't know, I'm going to try some stuff out. And I fell on my face all the time. I do want to say that. Like, you know, I was in my early 20s and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But that was kind of the point. And I think once I took the outcome of like, every date has to lead to a relationship off the table and turned it more into like, I'm learning what works for me and what doesn't, you know, then you can go like, ouch, like, I got rejected on that date and that really hurt. Like, what did I learn from that? Or like, wow, that person was not my match, but I had a fascinating conversation. Like, that's really interesting. Or like, you know, wow, I really love dates where I do X and I don't love dates where I do Y. And like, in that process, I ended up in some like really lovely relationships. Like, some were longer than others, but this sense of like, I did end up with a boyfriend at the end of that process, but it wasn't because like
you went out looking for a boyfriend.
Right. I was like, I went out looking how to date.
Yeah.
And I trusted that process, and it ended up happening. And this isn't the person I ended up dating for years and years, but it was like, oh, right. Like, if I go in with curiosity and I'm curious about other people and I'm there to learn and I don't take it all too seriously, like, the right people will find me eventually.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did.
They did. I love it. I want to quickly touch on your dating coaching, which, I mean, everything you've said is perfection. Tell me about what led you to become a dating coach.
It's so funny because I didn't intend to do it. It was just someone
We
like,
never do.
I was right. I don't know anyone
None
that's
of
like,
us
that's what I
intended
wanted to do. Everyone's like, I had this whole other completely separate career. But I think it was a combination of I found this so fascinating, just in the sense of like, this is one of these areas of life that is so important to literally everybody, like finding the person or people that they want to spend their life with. But no one like talks about it. And like, until we're much older, like, you don't get any instruction or learning or guidance or best practices. You just kind of get through the whisper network of what you pick up from your parents and like your older siblings and cousins. And you're like, I'm gonna stitch it together. And if I have to ask for help, there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, this is not it. Like, this can't be how we all learn how to date. So one, I think, was that initial, like, I'm going to read everything, I'm going to try everything, I'm going to learn everything, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to fall down, I'm going to get back up. And then realizing, like, oh my goodness, everyone else is having this experience too, and they're just not telling me about it. So it was after I started hosting events that I was like, gosh, all my like brilliant, attractive, successful, thoughtful, like smart friends are struggling just as much as I was. And like, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like, and you can start to see where you're like, oh gosh, I see where that went sideways. But like, I know you feel really stuck. Like, I see a way out of this pretty quickly. So something I went and got certified, and just wanted to learn from people who'd done it really well for a really long time. And it's been such rewarding work to go like, figure out, what are you looking for? Like, what's really important to you? What actually matters? What doesn't? And then how do we make sure that your actions align with that? And that you're like taking enough of those brave steps to get you outside of your comfort zone, to get you closer to the right people. So I just think it's such rewarding, action-oriented work. And to just see people who are like, I feel so stuck. I feel unlovable. I feel like I'm going to be alone forever. I feel like there's something wrong with me, and go, there isn't. You actually just didn't know how to do this effectively. Let's like polish this up a little bit and get you help elsewhere if that's what we discover you need. But just like get you out there, realize it's not so scary. This is a thing you can learn. You can recover from rejection. You are much more resilient than you think. And this can be fun. Like, we don't have to take this quite so seriously.
Yeah, I think it's so amazing in my experience with it, just being able to point things out that someone may have like said this thing to their friend, said this thing a million times over, felt this thing, but they don't have someone who can actually say like, okay, that thing that you keep saying has happened to you 10 times. You can actually approach that differently.
Yeah.
That doesn't
we can
need
change
to keep,
this.
we can
It's not
change this
fixed. Yeah.
for sure. It's really cool to have that like accountability partner.
Right.
Who is there to cheer you on, but also, you know, correct little things, tweak little things, and help you date better.
Yeah.
And you're totally right. Like, we were never taught how to do this. And it blows my mind, because finding a person to spend your life with is one of the most important decisions you will ever make in your life.
Yeah.
And we're all just like thrown out into this world with all of our different traumas and attachment issues and all this. And no one is saying like, hey, here's some really common mistakes that you're going to make. Hey, like, this thing is going to break your heart, but you're going to overcome heartbreak. Here's some advice on how to like heal your heart. Here's some advice on how to deal with, you know, the person who screwed you over before, so that you can enter a new relationship with fresh eyes and in a healthy way. Like, there's so much that we are not taught to do. And it blows my mind. Like, we're not taught how to communicate with someone.
Right. How to have those even hard conversations. I think there's also a big like knowing doing gap where people are like, I know I need to have clear conversations. I know I need to say what I need. I know I need to have, you know, firm but flexible boundaries. I know I need to put myself out there. I know I need to do all those things.
I know I need to tell someone what I'm looking for. I know I need to not ghost them.
Right. And I know I need to step away from relationships that aren't working for me anymore, whatever it is. But it's much easier said than done. And I think having that structure and accountability and someone going like, I know it's hard, but I believe you can do it anyways. I think it's been really cool to watch that, like, you know, a light switch in people where they're like, right, I don't feel like dating is happening to me. I feel like I'm back in the driver's seat a little bit.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah. I can't control everything. I can't control all the other drivers on the road, but I can at least control how I drive.
And I can
get myself where I'm trying to
go the speed limit.
Yes.
And I know the directions. I don't have to look them up.
Right.
Like, I know the directions. I know the speed limit. Like, I'm going to stop at the stop signs fully.
Yep.
And there aren't sirens. Like, there are no sirens.
I might get rear-ended. That sucks.
Like, but then that's why we have AAA.
That's why we have insurance.
Insurance. Exactly.
It's a good metaphor.
I love it. I'm obsessed with it. Okay. I want to hit you with a few quick dating questions, and then we will wrap up, which I don't want to do, but everyone can come see us on March 20th.
Yay!
Okay. At what point do you discuss what you want for the future when it comes to things like marriage or kids?
I think it's such a good question, because I do think it like depends on the person and the life stage and sort of where you are. I think it's like, if you are someone who, well, to back up almost, I'm like, I just want people to be honest about whatever it is they want. And if you're like, I actually don't know, then like say that. But if you're like, I really know what I want, but I'm playing it cool because I'm trying not to scare somebody away or whatever, like, you can't, if what you're looking for is someone who's really committed for the same things that you are, then like you should scare the wrong person away, you know?
Without a doubt.
So yeah, like my answer to that is like whenever it feels authentic to you, and I don't want to imply that like that's the right thing that everyone should have that conversation on the third date or whatever, the first date or within month 1 or whatever. But it's like if you know that is like a deal breaker, so important to you, then like do it, and the right person will be like so stoked on that with you, and the wrong person will be like, they'll out themselves, they'll be like, I'm not, and then you can go, okay, like thank you for your time, we're not aligned, you know?
And it doesn't mean you messed up by asking.
You didn't mess up. You
got actually
clarity.
got clarity. You saved yourself time,
right?
Probably money,
right?
Probably heartache, because the longer you are with the wrong person, the more invested you're going to feel, the more it's going to hurt when it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You also could end up, if you don't bring it up, you know, the longer it goes on, you're going to feel so much more attached. We go right back to what you just said of not leaving someone who is wrong for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, I wouldn't advocate not saying something because you're trying not to scare someone away. I also wouldn't advocate like, I don't know, testing somebody to be like, I have this list of things that we need to align on our first date. Otherwise, throwing it out the window. But that sense of like, it can unfold, but like when it feels right for you. And I think there are quite a lot of people who are like, yeah, I know what I want, you know, down the line. I don't want it right now, but it's something that's taking shape for me and I'm exploring it. Then it's like, great, then let that come out on a timeline that makes sense for you. And I think so many of us are looking for like rules and guidelines. Like if I do X on date 1 and Y on date 3 and Z on date 10, it will work out. I'll never have any conflict. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way. And I hope people can tune back into their own intuition. It's like, I think we're a lot wiser than we realize, but we're just understandably scared. Like,
we're scared,
this is scary.
And we overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Like we take every detour possible instead of just going straight.
Yeah. Yeah. So like go straight, do the hard thing, say the hard thing, trust yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's no such thing as a smooth, like perfect relationship, but like I believe that if you trust yourself, you can make one that works for you.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Okay. One more. Let's do, I mean, there's like 17 here.
I'm happy to answer as many as you want.
Fine.
I don't have
anywhere more than one. Tips for moving in with a partner. How to adjust and still have space and time alone.
Ooh, good question. So yeah, this is interesting because my partner and I worked like full time from home together for 4 years. One of it was just like straight up making sure we're in a space that has enough space. Like we were like, oh, we want to live in this neighborhood, but like we can get a studio. And we're like, nope, we're going to go somewhere we have enough space. So just whatever enough space means to you, like do that. Like when you're around each other all the time, it can be really easy to be like, well, I guess we either have to do everything together or like we don't have to be intentional about quality time. So being like, we're still going to go on a date. Like I'm still going to get dressed up and go somewhere. Or like we're going to put the phones down and like do something together at home, but like with the intention of like, I'm spending time with you. I'm not just sitting next to you on my phone. So I think that was all really helpful. And then also just sort of like giving yourself a little time and grace. Like you might discover some weird stuff about yourself and be like, oh, I didn't know I did that annoying thing, or that I needed help with this thing, or that I, wanted things to be, I didn't realize I was quite so particular about this thing. But just like giving yourself a little grace, like that's just adapting to another person sharing a space with you.
Yeah. I mean, we've all moved in with roommates before where we're like, oh, I love this person. I had no idea they did that thing that pisses me off. It's like, just give it time. Yeah. You're also probably like sharing a room maybe for the first time.
Sharing a bed.
Yeah.
Like maybe for the first time since like, I don't know, childhood.
Yeah, exactly. So it can be a big adjustment. I mean, I know, most people I talk to in relationships, like I would ask my friends who were getting married, like, oh, like, what's been the biggest adjustment? And they're like, getting married wasn't the adjustment, moving in together was, because that's the real like life shift.
Right.
I think one thing that me and Jake did when we first started moving in together, and I'll still do it now, is like there was never anything really clashing, but sometimes like I would get annoyed of like little things here and there, which like I'm sure he gets annoyed all the time because I am a mess. But like he would like leave his jeans on the chair, or like we still load the dishwasher differently. But instead of being like, you always do this, or I hate that you do that, I would just be like, so is now a good time for feedback? And like if he's in the middle of work, no, it's not a good time. If he's sitting on the couch and playing Xbox, it's totally a fine time. And I would be like, so we're still doing the dishwasher differently. Can I come show you my preferred way to load it? Not the right way.
Right.
Because who's to say my way is right? We all do things differently. But, or like, your jeans are still on the chair. Like, they can be there, but I'd prefer if they'd be in the
Right.
bedroom.
Totally.
Like when you don't need them on. So just like little things like that, kind of like I did it in a lighthearted way.
Right. And because like so much of it isn't a big deal. You're like, that is mildly annoying to me, or like, I don't understand why you do that, but like, it's not the end of the world. Like, we are adults who can figure out a solution to this.
Yes.
You know, and I think remembering like we're on the same team, like we're there to like make each other comfortable and like figuring out like, yeah, these are the things that are really important to me that I'm really going to need like help with from you.
Yes.
And these are the things that it's like, well, that isn't the way I would have done it, but it's just, it doesn't matter that much to me either. Like figuring out what those things are for you. And I think everyone has different versions of that. So figuring out like, yeah, which battles are ones that feel worth fighting for me, which are like, oh, this is an adjustment for me. And that's fine.
Yeah. Also, remember that your partner cannot read your mind.
Yes.
Like,
you have to actually say something. And most of the time they're probably going to be like, oh, I had no idea I did that. Or I had no idea that bothered you. Or
I had no idea
like,
you needed that.
Right.
Like, especially if you're someone, like, I know people can be really scared to move in with somebody if they are so independent and loved their, like, living alone or love their Sunday nights for themselves, like their self-care time, whatever it is. Like, you're not leaving that behind, but you have to tell your partner that that's important to you. That having the apartment one night a week to yourself is like makes things so much different.
Right.
And, you know, maybe they weren't expecting that, but they can say like, okay, yeah, like I'll go hang out with the boys, or I'll go do this thing at someone else's place, or I'll go play whatever game, or I'll go to the gym at that time so you can have your night. They would never have known that if you don't communicate it.
Right. And like, it's your relationship, it's your home. Like, you get to make the rules that work for the two of you in whatever way. Because I would hate for someone to be like, what's the right way to move in together? Or like, what's the right amount of time to spend with each other? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you want? You know? And I think that sense of like, we have more like, so I work West Coast hours. He works regular East Coast hours. So like, I wake up 3 hours later and go to bed 3 hours later. For some people, that'd be like, God, I really wish we ate meals at the same time or went to bed at the same time. But for us, I'm like, I just operate on a different schedule than he does, and that's fine. So it's like, I would encourage people to remember that like, they don't have to follow any given script. They can be like, yeah, I want to spend a lot of time alone, or I actually don't want to spend any time alone, or I really need an office to or some space to myself, or actually I really don't mind if you're right next to me, or I want to eat all my meals together, or just dinner, or what. Like, you get to make the rules. So it's like, again, turning that question back on like, what's important to you, what's your intuition telling you, and like, you get to decide.
And again, things change over time too.
Yeah.
So just because things were one way for the first 6 months doesn't mean they're going to be that way for 6 years.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's do one more. Ooh, this is a good one. Okay. What are the biggest mistakes you see people making at in-person dating events?
Ooh, I think one is if they like sort of come in and they're like, they do that scan around the room and they go like, is there someone I'm immediately attracted to? And if not, then I'm disappointed, or this was a waste of my time. I think that's like, I understand where that comes from, but it's really tough energy to like come approach an event with. And you just simply never know what's going to happen. Like, yeah, maybe there's no one you're attracted to, but you made a new friend. Or maybe someone has a brother or a sister that you would be interested in. Or it's a great way to practice your in-person skills. Or maybe like you get to talking to someone and they become more attractive to you.
Yeah.
Once you get to know them. They don't match your type to a T, but you're really delightfully surprised by how passionate they are about something, or how intelligent, or how funny, or how good of a flirt they are. Like, being open to that, I think, is one. I think number two is thinking it was a failure if you didn't get a date out of it. And again, I get that it's a little paradoxical because like, you came looking to date, that's why you're there, but to like find ways to be proud of yourself and what you accomplished, like, regardless.
Even going is an accomplishment.
Just getting yourself out there is a win. Yeah, and I'd say like also just like not doing the brave thing. I've spoken to so many people, particularly at more unstructured events, where it's like, oh, I went to this happy hour open bar or whatever, and like I really wanted to talk to someone, but I didn't, and I'm like disappointed in myself, or I'm disappointed no one came and talked to me. And it's like remembering that like you have a little agency, you have a little control, like people there want to be approached and want to be spoken to. So I think people will go and wait for things to happen to them instead of taking the reins and saying like, I get to happen, you know? And I get that it's terrifying, but this is like a skill worth practicing, because like the more you do it, the less scary it is. It's like, I don't believe in like, oh, like, I don't even know that I believe in rejection as a concept. It's just like something's not a match for you. It's not a good fit. But that sense of like, right, if someone doesn't want to talk to you in any given moment or doesn't want to exchange numbers or doesn't want to go on that date with you, like it has no bearing on your worth as a person. Like, and getting comfortable with that makes all of this so much less scary. So remembering to just like go be brave, go try things out. It's not all going to go the way you hoped, and that's fine. Like just go be brave.
Go be brave. It's all experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. All it takes is one.
Yep.
Or maybe you'll get a new job out of it. I'm sure that's happened.
Oh, totally. I know people who have made professional connections at these events. They're like, wow, I actually have a job opening that I need to fill. Do you know someone?
You never know.
That happens. Friendships made, all that kind of stuff. Or just people who will say like, I stepped outside of my comfort zone and I'm really proud of myself.
And it gets easier every time.
It gets so much easier.
Yeah.
And I know it's like way easier said than done, but I understand why people are like, I don't want to get rejected. It doesn't feel nice. I don't want to pretend it feels nice. But it's like, look, that person doesn't want to go on a date with you because for whatever reason you're not their type.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to change for them, for this stranger?
Every single person that you look up to in the world, in your life, has gotten rejected.
Right.
In so many ways.
I don't know anyone who hasn't been rejected often. Especially anyone who's putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
You're rejected often and it has no bearing on their like self. I think that for me, getting comfortable, because I know so many of our social scripts say like, oh, women should be approached and like we should wait or we should give invitations, but I was like, I remember getting before I was like, screw that, I'm gonna go say hi to like whoever.
You're in control.
And I got rejected all the time, and it was one of those
and
things.
You lived to tell the tale.
You
didn't die from
survived. I didn't die. It was actually kind of fun, and I had some really fun interactions because sometimes people say yes. They're like, I love this energy that you're coming with. Like,
if you don't try, you're rejecting yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, final question. What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice you've ever received or have to give?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough question. What's the best piece? I do think, and I think we discussed this a little bit already, but like as long as you're safe, a bad date's a good story. Like just reminding yourself not to take it all so seriously. I think it can be really easy to get really stuck on what does this mean? Where am I going? Yes, take yourself seriously. Like you deserve to be taken seriously. You deserve to have what you want. But like at the end of the day, like all of this is supposed to be fun. Yeah. Like dating's supposed to be fun. Your partnership's supposed to be fun. Like, yes, it can have all these other dimensions and elements to it, but like remember to enjoy yourself.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people find Met Through Friends and learn about upcoming events?
Yes, so you can see us on Instagram at met_through_friends. We just got our website redone, so that's looking really beautiful. You can learn more about our story, the brand, all the other stuff we do, coaching, events at met-through-friends.com.
Beautiful. I will have all that linked in the show notes. Elle, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I can't wait for our event. Guys,
So
March
much fun.
20th.
March
so
20th.
soon.
It's going to be great.
Link in show notes. Come.
Yay.
We can't wait to see you. Bye.